Something I love about artwork is that it is just a fun and creative way for us to appreciate the beauty of not only our surroundings but also our imagination, and we can put it right on paper. A single painting actually holds the power to transport your mind into an exciting adventure even when you're just at home. I've never had the pleasure of seeing the Northern Lights in person, but I saw a picture of them the other day that was so inspiring I wondered if I could somehow take on the challenge of capturing them in a painting using watercolors. These are just some little practice samples I tried out on some scrap pieces of paper to see if it was even possible. I learned a couple things with these, but most importantly, it gave me some hope that I might be able to try this out on a bigger scale. So what do you think? Should we give it a go? We of course need some supplies to get started. I have watercolor paints, a paper towel, some clean water, and then of course some watercolor paper. Now on my paper I do have a very simple, lightly penciled sketch on here. I really think that you can draw this yourself if you want to give it a try. Let me pull out a slightly darker version so you can see it a little bit better. I just have some curves or waves for the northern lights in the sky with some mountain ranges and pine trees down below. If you'd like to save some time though and just jump right into painting, I will have this outline in my Etsy shop at a 20% discount for 1 week, along with maybe a few other outlines as well. If it would be helpful to you, then all you have to do is print it out and trace it onto your watercolor paper using a light table or even just a well-lit window in your house. I'll leave a link for my Etsy shop as well as links and information for any of the other products you see me using today in the description of this video. Now, I often just tape my painting right to my table, but today I'm actually going to tape it to a separate board instead. Actually, this is a plastic painting palette that I sometimes use for oil painting, but I think it will work just fine. I had to find something small enough that would fit in my camera screen, but you can use anything you have available. And I'll show you why I'm going to be doing this in just a minute. Okay, I think that's good enough. Just make sure that you secure those corners really well so that you don't get paint and water seeping through there. We're going to be painting the entire area of this page. All right, for my brushes, I have 3 sizes I'll be using today. I have here a large number 12 round that will help do the larger background washes of color. I also have a number 7 round and a small number 3 round for some of the finer details. Now, these particular brushes are some that will actually be included in my upcoming monthly watercolor classes in a box or subscription boxes. In fact, I have exciting news on that. Here is a little sneak peek of what you can expect with these monthly watercolor classes. They will have everything you need to paint the images that you see on the box cover, including paints, brushes, paper, outlines, and an exclusive slow-paced step-by-step painting tutorial as well. This has been a huge project to take on, and I know a lot of you have been anxiously awaiting their release. I'm excited today to announce that I will be launching these next Thursday, July 24th. I will be doing a special premiere unboxing and painting video in honor of this, so make sure you tune in for that. I think you are going to love what I have in store. And as a side note, there will be some special discounts and deals the day of the launch, so make sure you sign up to be notified using the link in the description of this video so you don't miss out on any of that good stuff. I will say too that whether or not you're wanting to participate in these monthly watercolor classes in a box, you should join me anyway for the painting portion of the video. I have a really special painting planned. Okay, enough of that. Let's get to painting. Now, the green colors I have in my everyday palette are colors that are more designed for floral compositions because that is what I tend to paint the most often. But I really needed a bright green color today, so I'm going to pull out my tube of permanent green light and just add a little bit to my tray here to use for this piece. All right, now we are going to be painting the northern lights and background washes using the wet on wet technique. So the paint is going to look very soft and blended, but we are going to need to work very quickly. So let's get our colors ready to use right now, so when it's time, we can put them on the page a little bit faster. I'll mix up a few colors for this. First up, I'll just pull out a bit of azo yellow. Now I'll take some of that azo yellow and mix it with a touch of the permanent green to get a really bright yellow-green color. Next, I'll take a touch of phthalo blue and mix that with some of the permanent green for a vibrant blue-green. And lastly, I'll take some phthalo blue and mix it with a touch of ivory black, or you could use Payne's gray for a darker blue. I think that should be good enough to get us started. Let's cross our fingers and give this a try. Using the large number 12 brush, I'll start by taking some water and covering the background sky area. I'll be applying this from the top of the page clear down to the bottom. You probably could stop at the mountains if you wanted to, but I actually tried that in one of my practices and it sort of created some hard lines that I didn't exactly want, but the choice is up to you. The good news is that if any color seeps into that mountain area, we will be painting over the mountains with a darker color later that pretty much covers up any overlapping color. Now you do want the page to be pretty wet here so that it helps our color spread out well and so that it doesn't start drying out too quickly. But if you start to see pools or puddles, that might be a little bit too much water. We don't want that to happen. I'm seeing some pooling around the edges of my page, so I'll just take my paper towel and dab a little bit of that color off really quickly. All right, let's get some color on here. Let's try working our way from the lighter colors to dark. So I'll pull out the azo yellow first and just paint in the general areas where I want my northern lights to flow through the sky. Now let's take a touch of the yellow-green and start adding that in here, blending it into the yellow a little ways, and I'll focus this color mostly around the edges of the yellow, leaving some of the yellow still showing through as the highlight area. Make sure you don't cover up all of the yellow with this green, and remember we need to work fairly quickly here so that the rest of the page doesn't start to dry out. Okay, let's try adding in some dark color into the empty white spaces before that area starts to dry out, and we'll see what we get. I'll try this darker blue-black mixture and just paint that right in next to the yellow-green we just put on here so that they start blending together where they touch. I hope you're enjoying this exciting and unique watercolor painting so far. It's always fun to try something a little different. If you find you are enjoying my painting and teaching style, I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out on any of my new and upcoming weekly tutorials. You know, when I get down to the bottom here, I think I'm just going to go ahead and spread this color out to the rest of the page just so everything flows well. This looks pretty good, but I do think we need some even more darker concentrated color in this area. I'll just really quickly mix up some of this blue-black color again, but I'll mix it a little bit heavier on the black this time and make it very concentrated. All right, now here comes the fun part. This is why we tape the paper down onto a separate board. We are going to be picking up the board and start tilting, turning, and tipping the board into different positions to help that paint and water naturally move and blend on the page. Just keep an eye on what it's doing and how it's moving so you can get the look that you want. You may even need to hold it still in certain positions a little bit longer to get the paint to move or blend a little bit more in different areas. In fact, you can already start to see how those lighter greens and that dark blue is starting to bleed into each other where they touch, and this is creating a very neat and natural soft edge. This looks really good just as it is, but I may take a bit of a risk and add a hint of this vibrant blue-green color into the page while everything is still wet to create a bit more color and depth. But if your painting has started to dry by this point, you are not going to want to add more color in here, or you'll start having a hard time getting things to blend and you might get some hard lines. You'll have to be the judge on your painting, but as long as the paint is still wet, you can keep tweaking it a little bit. I may touch up or add some more color here and there, but really at this point, I'm just playing it by ear. Well, I think that is about all I dare add and mess with before I actually start making things worse instead of better. That is a very delicate balance. It can be hard sometimes to just call it done and stop messing with it, but it's good to know when to stop so that it doesn't start going downhill. Now, you can naturally let it sit and dry on its own if you want to. I would like to speed up my process a little bit, so I'll pull out a hairdryer to get that job done. I also like how the painting looks right now, so I don't want to risk having any of the paint continue bleeding or risk getting some potential blooms on here. So I'm just going to play it safe and stop that process right now. I also find that the warm hair dryer and the sped up drying time helps with the warping of the page a little bit too, so that is a definite plus in my book. Okay, I am happy to tell you that if you've made it this far in your piece, the rest of it is smooth sailing. We have finished the hardest part of the painting, so congratulations. Let's switch over to the number 7 round brush and freshen up this dark blue color and paint in some of those background silhouette mountain ranges. I still have a bit of the previous blue color here, so I might even just add just some extra ivory black to darken it up and make it a little bit different than the sky color. I'll also be painting this area using the wet on wet technique. So after my color is mixed, I'll just take a touch of water and paint that in the first mountain range area. Obviously you can see my water is a little bit tainted, but that doesn't worry me too much because I am going to be painting in a darker color in just a minute. Now I'll take some of that darker color and start adding that in here, painting it up at the top of the peaks and then blending it downward. And if you feel like you want to pick up your board and tilt and move that paint around a little bit that way, by all means feel free to do so. I was kind of hoping to have it a little bit lighter in value at the base of this mountain. It's a little darker than I wanted, but I think it's okay. We'll just go with the flow and work with what I've got. I think I'll go ahead and quick dry this spot with my hair dryer too so that I can move on to the next mountain peak. As a side note, my sky is super dry by this point, so I may just try to erase or lighten up some of those pesky little pencil lines that I can still see in here. I tried to have them as light as I could when I drew it on initially, but there are still a few visible. Well, I didn't get them all, but I do think that helped a little bit. All right, let's move on. I'll just darken up that color even more with some more concentrated amounts of ivory black, and basically I'll just paint this next mountain peak in the exact same way as we just did. I'm once again going to try to keep the top a little darker in value than the bottom area, and I will just go ahead and paint this color clear to the bottom of the page as well. Pretty good. Let's finish off this mountain background by painting in some of those distant pine trees. I'll pull out my number 3 round for this, and I'll be using some pure ivory black. These trees should be the darkest thing on this page at this point. Now, I should say I'm not going to be meticulous about these. A general shape of them is going to be good enough. I kind of just like to start with maybe the trunk line for the tree, and then I'll add in the branches starting at the top and moving downward, painting them really quickly from side to side and gradually making it wider at the base of the tree. Nothing too fancy here. The only tip I'll throw out is to make sure that they are not all the same size. Have some a little taller, some a little shorter, and this is going to give it some variation and interest. Now I'll just finish off this mountain here by painting in the bottom part under the trees a pure black also. All right, we only have one more thing to add to this piece and we can call it done. Let's have some fun here and add some star splatters into the night sky. I'm just going to pull out some opaque white paint. You can either use some gouache or some opaque watercolor paint. Go ahead and add a little bit of water to it to make it a little more runny. I'll load up a brush, maybe the number 7. And then I'll go ahead and cover up the mountains at the bottom of the piece with a scrap piece of paper. We want to keep the stars in the sky after all. Then I will just tap my loaded brush against another to knock off some splatters of white paint into the sky. I'm really trying to focus these in the darker areas on the page where they stand out a little bit better, but you can have as many or as few as you want and put them wherever you want. That looks pretty good. I might just clean up my desk a little bit. I got a little crazy with those splatters. And then I might pull out my brush and paint in a few larger dots into the sky as well. This is just going to add some varying sizes of stars. And that, my friends, is it for this striking and unique watercolor painting today. I'm so glad you joined me for this tutorial. I hope you had some fun and maybe even learned something new. If you did enjoy this tutorial, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side.
Subscribe to this video, please.